Imagine you are walking down the street and you come across a crash vehicle. When you look into the vehicle, you see an unconscious woman at the steering wheel, and next to her in the passenger seat, you see an unconscious child. You are allowed to save only one before the car explodes. Who do you save? By a show of hands, how many of you would save the woman? By a show of hands, how many of you would save the child? Wonderful. Alright, Eagle, we will talk about the relevance of this activity in a bit, but for now, let's just keep in mind the results that were provided. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Judith Mendoza, and I will be talking to you all about my research project on the effects of the child welfare system on immigrant children. By the end of my speech, I hope you will leave this presentation knowing about this research topic, which will be covered through 3 main sections. Yes. The first main section will talk about why I chose this particular topic. The next will cover the research I have found, and the last one will touch on propositions in regards to this research topic. To start off the first main section, I want to give a brief overview of myself as it pertains to my chosen population of interest for this research. I am a first-generation Mexican-American student. I was born in the U.S., but both my parents are undocumented immigrants who were born in Mexico and who are part of the diverse population living in the U.S. who struggle to find the means to provide and support their families. Now, I have been blessed in many ways, the main one being that I reached adulthood without my parents having been deported. If I were told now that my parents were to be deported, I like to believe that even if it affected me emotionally, it wouldn't impact me as much physically compared to if I were younger. This is mainly due to the benefits of being a U.S. citizen and an adult, such as such as being able to work and provide for myself and having the knowledge of easily accessible resources such as medical care and mental health care providers. But there are families around the U.S. that struggle with the constant fears of being deported and who risk losing so much due to various components. And these fears don't only apply to undocumented immigrants, as the overall population of immigrants face unique challenges and struggles that make living in the U.S. challenging. Now, the U.S. is a country that really prides itself on diversity. Examples line the quotes that politicians share, as well as messages we see around the country that symbolize the importance of diversity. According to the 2020 census, the population of the U.S. was composed of 57.2% of people identifying as white, 18.7% as Hispanic or Latinx, 12.7% as Black or African American, and the remaining 11.4% composing of a range of other racial and ethnic groups. Of the total U.S. population, 13.7% consists of immigrants, of which 50% identify as Hispanic or Latinx, which is the biggest diverse group in the U.S., seen from the 2020 census. Seeing as how I come from a family of immigrants, and immigrants are a part of the diverse population in the U.S. who face challenges, I decided I would focus on this population for my research topic. So how did children fit into all of this? Well, now I want us to remember the activity we did at the beginning of the presentation. When given the scenario that you could only save one person from a car crash, and you had to decide between saving a woman and saving a child, all of you raised your hands saying that you would save the child over the woman. These scenarios happen in everyday life, all of the time. But what our responses show us is that we live in a society that deeply values children's lives. Children's lives hold so much value to us that our government has created a system focused on the protection and well-being of children called the child welfare system. So now there are 2 main factors that I detected are really important to our society. 1, the embracing of diversity, and 2, the population of children. I wanted to combine these factors into a research topic and decided to focus on immigrant children and to research how the child welfare system is influencing these children in a way that is protecting them and helping them become capable adults while also preserving their diverse background. Now that you know why I chose this topic, I want to move on to talk about the research that I have found about immigrant children in the child welfare system. According to the 2015 Child Information Week article, Immigrants in the Welfare System, there are several common systemic issues agencies face when working with immigrant children. The most prevalent being the lack of familiarization from workers about immigration policies, reluctance in considering undocumented relatives as caregivers, inadequate procedures for reunification of children with parents, and inadequate assessing and provision of care. These systemic issues limit children from receiving adequate care and necessary resources that will allow them to persevere as immigrant children in the U.S. Adequate care for this population encompasses being able to provide cultural sensitivity without bias or discrimination, and necessary resources encompasses not only physical resources such as food, water, and medication, but also mental health resources such as therapy and counseling. In order to receive appropriate care, workers and agencies must comprehend the cultural differences immigrant children have, as well as the barriers they face. For example, Hispanic or Latinx immigrant children come from a collectivist culture that values the family dynamic. The deportation of parents that cause children to be left at the care of the system creates a physical, mental, and emotional strain on the child as the family dynamic is broken. Not understanding how this factor plays a role in the child's life can cause development of trauma, and agencies can act in ways that enable it. These actions may not intend to isolate and exclude children from their culture or to develop trauma, but lack of consideration for cultural factors can facilitate these actions and harm the children. Necessary resources also play a role, as the child welfare system may not provide the appropriate mental health resources. For example, assessments may not adequately represent immigrant children or properly assess them due to lack of consideration for other factors that may contribute to mental health issues. In fact, the study from the Child Welfare Information Gateway, published in 2021, revealed that the main issues connected to the misrepresentation of immigrant children in assessments are related to poverty, discrimination, and lack of investigation into complex trauma from parents. These factors play a role in trauma development and other mental health issues, but without the proper assessments or proper representation, agencies' ability to provide those resources are hindered, as well as can influence the lack of proper care. So we already are seeing problems with the child welfare system's ability to provide and care for these children, but this isn't to say that there aren't some positive influences or progress being made. Agencies with the intent of improving their responses and actions are incorporating trauma-informed care. Trauma-informed care, or TIC, strives to provide workers with more awareness and training in distinguishing symptoms of trauma in children, exercising trauma coping mechanisms, and helping establish good relationships with those involved with the child's care. A main issue that arises from TIC, though, is that while this form of care is commonly improves care and treatment within the facilities and workers, it commonly purports trauma as an individual experience rather than a collective experience. When TIC is incorporated in agencies, it mainly just tackles the issue of lack of proper care within the child welfare system for each child individually, without considering shared experiences such as migrational experiences, generational trauma, or others. This individualistic approach then brings up questions such as, what if the child is being exposed to an environment that is the cause of trauma, or is continuing the development of trauma? How do we ensure that the children are in a culturally sensitive environment that will benefit the child rather than harm them? How do we ensure that even after the child ages out of the system and is an adult, they are still able to receive the right care and resources to become capable adults? These questions raise the point that while there are some positive improvements from the child welfare system, there are still cultural factors and environmental factors that still need consideration. Now that you have some knowledge about my research findings, which I addressed in my second main point, let's move on to my third and final point, my propositions. As I stated in the first section, my main focus in my research is on how the child welfare system is influencing immigrant children in a way that is protecting them and helping them become capable adults, while also preserving their diverse background. Now, based on the previous section, we have established that the child welfare system has a great need for improvement, as there are still many ways in which it's not providing enough for these children. First, I propose that once children reach adolescence within the system, they are provided with workshops focused on helping them understand regulations and policies that can affect them if they don't have migratory status, or that provide insight as to what benefits these children have and how they can ask for them. While the child welfare system focuses on providing for children and ensuring their safety, children leave the system unprepared for obstacles they may face as immigrant adults. For this reason, I believe teaching them about regulations and policies is important. Not only that, but providing the same information and resources to the placements would benefit, as it would help build a support system that will prepare them for adulthood. Secondly, I propose the child welfare system provides a designated advisor or counselor that will help these adolescents learn about the ways to apply for jobs, as well as ways to pursue secondary education that is relevant to them. By designating a person to help a child, not only will the child be able to build a deeper relationship with the person, but the one-on-one interaction will ensure the child receives the necessary resources. Having an assigned advisor that understands what the child needs can help provide adequate assistance and preparation for life as an adult. In regards to preserving the child's diverse background, I propose that placements chosen for these children are given TIC training and are also equipped with information in regards to the child's cultural background, so that they can implement any important cultural factors into the life of the child. For example, maybe incorporating meals the child may be used to eating, or finding other children within the community who shares the same cultural background and building connections, or other factors that will allow the child the freedom to express themselves culturally. There are many, many more propositions, and even these propositions provided can be dove deeper as to how beneficial these can be for children. But the goal is to be able to provide the opportunity to children to continue embracing their diversity while also providing them the proper care and resources that will help them live a life in the U.S. as an adult. I am near at the end of my speech today. I first gave you information about why I chose this particular topic and population for my research topic. Second, I addressed my research findings on the effects of the child welfare system. And third, I provided propositions for this topic. The number of immigrant children entering the child welfare system continues to increase annually, and so many of these children continue to face challenges within and outside of the child welfare system. As a country, we can't pride ourselves in embracing diversity and caring about our future generations if the population group of immigrant children is still facing the challenges they are today. We need to continue to push for change so that we can create a child welfare system that is more representative and prepared for the diverse population it is meant to serve, so that it can then fulfill their goals of protecting our valued children. Thank you.
Such a pleasure to listen to. You're such a great speaker, by the way. Weren't you guys impressed? Delivery, right? Please let me open it up for questions and comments. Does anybody have anything they'd like to ask or say to Judith?
Are there any case studies from maybe different countries or anything else where their welfare systems that maybe any local positions have been implemented and have an impact on that?
Unfortunately, my research was focused more on the Hispanic and Latinx immigrant students and children in the child welfare system, so I haven't had the opportunity to research about that. But there are a lot of articles and there are a lot of documents that talk about different legal procedures and how those impact even immigrant children who are entering their different countries. And so they have different policies, and their way of handling the child welfare system is very different than the U.S. is. Even in the U.S., every state has different policies, has different regulations when it comes to the children that come inside of the child welfare system. Not every state follows the same rules or the same guidelines. And so if we're seeing these differences even within our own states inside of the U.S., we can probably expect that, at least when it comes to different other countries, that their regulations and their procedures may be handled very differently than ours.
Any questions or comments? That is a great answer.
You talk about pursuing or encouraging pursuing higher education. So do you have any statistics on how many kids from the system end up in higher education?
I don't have an exact number for you, but it is said that at least within the Hispanic and Latinx children, the rate of children that pursue higher education is very, very minimal. And the main reason for this is because many of them rely heavily on the ability to grow up fast so that they can provide for themselves. And so their concern more is about survival and making it. And so most of them are just reaching that age of as soon as they can work, they want to work so that they can provide for their families, so that they can build money. Most of them are also more concerned with if their parents were deported, they're trying to find means in which to help them gain some form of residency and reconnect and reunite with them. So it's very, very minimal. And it mainly comes from like lack of low self-esteem, and most of them aren't motivated to pursue higher education, and they have different focuses.
Great job.
So Judith is an absolute force in, I'm so glad everybody got a glimpse of her brilliance. As I was trying to think about what I could best say to capture Judith and her brilliance. And what has always struck me about Judith is she is so passionate about folks on the margins, no matter what she does. And I know a career in education or social work or therapy or something is coming for her, but it's just so comforting and so relieving to have someone like you who is so passionate, as in this case, about migrant youth in the family policing system and all of those sorts of things. No matter what you're going to do, you're going to have such a huge imprint on the lives of some of the most marginalized and vulnerable folks in the world. So it's so wonderful. Congratulations. Great job, Judith.